With the Major League Baseball trade deadline approaching, let's set the table for out-of-control Dodger rumors. Lincoln Riley said changing the culture at USC wasn't completed in year one, and Chip Kelly has no timetable to name UCLA starting quarterback. Good morning, I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos Morning Report. So it is July 24th, 2023. Yesterday, we added a new subscriber to the Angeleno Familia. Thank you for getting in on the ground floor. I'm so happy every time we add to the list because it tells me that we are building something for LA. And if you like being in the know about LA sports, clickety-clack the like button, clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And comment. Always like to hear from you guys. So before we go through the news and notes, a look at the scoreboard. Max Muncy hit a grand slam yesterday, but that was all the offense that the Dodgers could have after an entire weekend of just whooping that Ranger ass up and down Arlington. Texas 8, Dodgers 4. It's Emmett Sheehan's first big league loss. Dave Roberts called it a reality check for the rookie. No biggie. The Dodgers maintained their 4-game lead in the NL West. Meanwhile, today, the Dodgers are back in town. They're going to be playing Toronto tonight at 7. Michael Grove is 2-2 with a 6.40 ERA. Jose Barrios for Toronto, 8-7, 3.39 ERA. So, if you've been a watcher of this program for, about a year, you might remember during the offseason, you might remember during last year's trading deadline, I compiled a list of all the names that sports writers had linked to the Dodgers. Oh, the Dodgers were interested in this guy. The Dodgers were interested in that guy. I wanted to do that to illustrate how sports writers just love to gossip. They love to gossip. Just like the people at your job who claim that the boss is stooping the secretary. It's a gossip thing. It's without fact. Alleged responsible journalists just posting rumor after rumor with no idea how legitimate it really is. Last offseason, for example, we had a board and I linked the Dodgers that sports writers said were linked to 28 different players. They only acquired one person on the list, JD Martinez. That was it. Well, it's time. Behold! 35 names so far on the list of people that the Dodgers have alleged interest in. 35! And the trade deadline is literally a week away. Now this list, and if you want to take a look at the list, I would recommend, if you're watching this on a phone, just screenshot it, blow it up. If you're watching it on your flat screen, pause for a second. But this list is panic fire. This list is the equivalent of a drive-by shooting where the window rolls down and the guy holds his AK sideways because he thinks it looks cool and just strafes bullets all over the place and hits absolutely nothing. That is a panic fire list. And if you think I'm going to go through every name on that list and break it down for you, honestly, you're high. Put down the joint. I get it. Maybe you're in chronic pain and you need that hit. I understand, but it's still Monday morning. You've got to get to work. You're high. What I do want to do is instead tell you what the Dodgers likely need. And let's be real, it's pitching. It's going to be both in the starting rotation and the bullpen. There are 3 rookies, for example, in the LA's rotation. All 5 starters for the Dodgers since opening day have gone on the injured list. Walker Buehler had Tommy John surgery last year. Haven't seen him at all. Dustin May just had elbow surgery to repair 2 tendons, and he's out for the next 12 months. So you look at that list. I put all the starting pitchers in the left column. There's a little space between the position players at the bottom and the starting pitchers. Look at that list. You could have the entire Chicago White Sox starting rotation. Would you want the entire White Sox starting rotation? Of course you wouldn't want the entire White Sox starting rotation. That's insane. And as for the bullpen, the Dodgers bullpen, let me put it this way. Scientists have zapped aluminum with a high-focused X-ray laser, and it generated 3.6 million degrees Fahrenheit. And even that is not equivalent to the heat from the flaming hot garbage that the Dodgers bullpen has been. So those guys are on the upper right of the list. Please note, you could have the Mets bullpen. Would you want the Mets bullpen? Of course you wouldn't want the Mets bullpen. Also, the Dodgers would want right-handed hitting. Their entire outfield right now, all three starters are left-handed hitters. Now, what the Dodgers could give up starts with catching. If you recall the Max Scherzer trade from a couple of years ago, LA sent their best catching prospect, Keibert Ruiz, to the Nationals. The Dodgers, for whatever reason, luck of the draw, who knows, the Dodgers keep coming up with their major prospects being catchers, or of the position players. So right now, you've got Diego Cartaya and Dalton Rushing. You might even consider saying, hey, if the price is right, maybe you send Will Smith and try to figure out how to replace him for the remainder of the year. But I doubt that's going to happen. I sincerely doubt that'll happen. Michael Busch is an infielder I think the Dodgers wouldn't mind using in a trade. Yeah, his hitting's been touted, but he is 26. If he really was all that in a bag of chips, he would have been in the majors for a while now. You might recall that we talked about how scouts believe that the Dodgers AA affiliate out in Tulsa has a rotation of 6, not 5, 6. That, of course, included Emmett Sheehan. All 6 of those starters were considered legit major league starting prospects. So the Dodgers have pitching that they can deal as well. So that's how we're going to start talking about the trade deadline. I'll be adding names to that list just to, again, illustrate the absolute absurdity of sports writer gossip. Because they're not getting everybody on this list. Out of that list, I think I would only want 2 or 3 of the people on that list. But who am I? The bullpen session that Clayton Kershaw was supposed to throw today is going to be delayed. Roberts said that the reason is not because of anything Kershaw may or may not be feeling. They simply want to align it with Kershaw's return date. In other words, give him enough time for the arm to recover before putting him back in. Now, you might find this hard to believe because USC, until they face planted in the Pac-12 title game and their bowl game, but the Trojans were fire for a big chunk of the year. According to Lincoln Riley, though, the quote-unquote culture change that he was supposed to bring wasn't completed in the first year. He told a talk show host in Oregon that the players were surprised by the success that the team had early in the season. Quote, a lot of last year was about convincing our guys of what was possible, unquote. Now, as for the team this year, we've already mentioned that the scribes of the Pac-12 believe that USC is going to win the conference. There's even an LA Times scribe who thinks that the Trojans will make the college football playoffs. I like the Trojans. Ever since I was a kid, student body right, etc. I'm not that optimistic. The second half of that season is a straight-up killer, but something that you might want to keep your eyes on when training camp begins, though, is running back. If you want to be interested in what this team is going to do, don't focus on the end of the year. Think of what they have to establish now. They need to replace Travis Dye. Dye had that job last year on lockdown, and then he got injured. Austin Jones took over toward the end of the season, but even though Jones is returning, he doesn't have that job locked down. There are 4 other possibilities, and this is going to be an interesting battle. Sophomore transfer Marshawn Lloyd averaged more than 5 yards per carry with South Carolina, for example. Rayleigh Brown, you remember him, he could be to the Trojans what Alvin Kamara was to the New Orleans Saints. You line him up in the backfield, and then you just kind of like have him go in motion out as a wide receiver, just completely throw the defense off kilter because of his speed. What about freshman Amarian Peterson? He averaged 165 yards per game in high school. And Quinton Joyner was the 14th ranked running back prospect in the nation last year. So the Trojans have options. They just don't know which one to take yet, at least the way it looks. Finally, with USC, I've talked at length about this mantra And it's not just for the Trojans, it's for UCLA. The first school to sanity wins. I've been saying it since January. The first school to play defense wins, because that is sane. You have to have defense as well as offense. You can't be that lopsided. For the Trojans, you could argue that as many as 6 of the players that transferred into the program since the end of last year could start on defense. Riley also went out of his way during Pac-12 Media Day to repeat his undying admiration for defensive coordinator Alex Grinch. Now, Trojan fans like me had organized the torches, pitchforks, and the witchcraft tribunal that would, after that defense just face-planted toward the end of the year. But Grinch, who by the way also struggled with Riley at Oklahoma, still kept his gig. They're claiming it's a talent issue. It may very well be, but there's going to be a lot of turnover on the Trojans' defense going into the fall. Chip Kelly told the Orange County Register, by the way, that there is no timetable to name a number 1 quarterback for UCLA. It appears to be a 3-man competition. We've mentioned this before. I've had a couple of fans mention a 4th person, but from what I'm reading, it tends to be a 3-man deal between highly regarded recruit Dante Moore out of Detroit, returning quarterback Ethan Garbers, and a transfer Colin Schlee. Quote from Kelly, "What I'm hopeful is over time with the training reps they get is that someone rises up a little bit over somebody else. And it's to the point that everyone can see that. It has to be one on the field," which is fair. If you watched yesterday's edition of Faithful Angelenos, I spent a lot of time breaking down how aggrieved running back Austin Eckler of the Chargers organized a Zoom call of significantly better running backs to discuss how to improve their pay situation. ESPN confirmed that there were participants in this Zoom call: Cleveland's Nick Chubb, the Giants' Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs of the Raiders, Tennessee's Derrick Henry, and the 49ers' Christian McCaffrey were definitely in on the Zoom call. They kicked around ideas, but Chubb talked about it after the event, and he got to the bottom line. Quote, "Right now, there's really nothing we can do. We're kind of handcuffed with the situation," unquote. Now, if you want to know why running back pay is being limited, we go into great detail on the tape that I put out yesterday, the clip, if you will. CBSSports.com, meanwhile, they asked 3 burning questions for every AFC West team. Oh, the burning. Burn, burn, burn. Sick burn. It's like smothering your genitals in Crisco and dropping them into the deep fryer. Wow, what burning questions. But while the Chargers' questions were somewhat obvious, they still have to be answered, you know? For example, why the hell hasn't quarterback Justin Herbert signed his extension yet? Why hasn't he been offered an extension yet that we know about? The market, for the most part, has been established. If you recall, there are 4 quarterbacks who were looking to get paid at once. Herbert, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, and the 4th guy whose name I'm forgetting at this time, so I apologize for that. But Jalen Hurts already signed his contract. And because of that, you can pretty much figure that Justin Herbert is probably going to get a long-term deal worth $50 million a year. And that matters, because once you know what you're paying the face of the franchise, you can plot out how the rest of the space that you have in the salary cap is going to fit. And recall, the Chargers at this moment are over the 2024 salary cap by a country mile. They're going to have some cutting to do. They need to know what they're paying Justin Herbert. Some cost certainty would be a lovely idea. Now, the other questions that CBS asked, they pale by comparison. For example, what does new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore bring? Well, we do have an idea of that, actually. He's going to simplify the running game, rely more on the running game, throw much deeper passes, and there's another idea that we haven't really kicked about a lot. When he was at Dallas, Moore liked to run out a lot of plays out of 12 personnel. Two tight ends in the formation is basically 12 personnel. So because of that, you could deduce that Donald Parham, the second tight end on the roster, will get a lot of chances to make plays. The third question is if first round pick wide receiver Quentin Johnson will make an immediate impact, and my guess is yes. If you recall, the Bolts sustained long-term injuries to multiple receivers last year. Derwin James also gives high marks to his new partner at safety, Alohi Gilman. Quote, "It's exciting being out there. He's a guy that's consistent. Everybody here counts on him. Everyone knows that he's going to be where he needs to be. He's making calls. He's confident." Unquote. Gilman, by the way, replaces the departed Nasir Adderley. I debated sharing this final note with you yesterday. Austin Reeves went on some random show and said if the Lakers didn't sign him this offseason, that Houston and San Antonio were interested. Now, this might raise your blood pressure a point or two. But so what? Did you read any stories whatsoever that said the Lakers didn't prioritize bringing back Austin Reeves? There were stories that said that the Lakers would match any contract Austin Reeves got all the way up to $100 million. There's no way Houston or San Antonio or any team was going to offer that much for Austin Reeves. So this is a non-story. Okay, if the Lakers weren't interested, maybe he would be in Texas. But they were very, very, very interested. Desperately interested. That first look that I have of my wife the moment I get off the plane from a road gig, interested. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Talk to me about this ridiculous list of players the Dodgers allegedly are looking at in trades. Talk to me about the changing culture at USC or UCLA's quarterback situation. And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.